So 8 rescues in a short 4-month period. That just seems too incredible to be true. So in this video, point 1, I'll just contextualize briefly those 8 rescues. Point 2, we'll look at one particularly interesting story where there's a really strange cause of instability. Point 3 is personal locator beacons. Here we'll look at the research that Pete Linley did in conjunction with the NSRI into the functionality of personal locator beacons and look at his recommendations. Point 4, there seems to be a disturbing trend that it is us older, middle-aged and older paddlers who are the ones who are being rescued. So I'll talk about my personal response to the stability-instability issue. Point 5, a harrowing rescue tale to share with you. This is the most recent rescue where the paddler in question lost his ski some 5 kilometers from shore just after the lighthouse, spent nearly 2.5 hours in the water, and whilst in the water, yes, you've guessed it, had some dorsal finned company, a paddler's worst flipping nightmare. And then ultimately, I'll end off by just reviewing the question, risk, how much is too much? Point 1 is where we review the 8 rescues in question. So the first was on the 10th of July. That's when the double broke a steering line that was in a northwester. The second, the 1st of August, due to instability, also on a northwester with a strong easterly swell. The third was on the 26th of August when a paddler broke, also on a northwester, broke a paddle, and that's the first instance of the PLB being activated, leading to the research that Pete Linley did. And then the fourth was this highly interesting case. This happened on the 21st of September. A very experienced paddler in an intermediate ski was doing a regular East Millers. Felt very unstable in his ski for some reason, fell out before the lighthouse twice, managed to remount, and then fell out again after the lighthouse and just could not remount. I spoke to him afterwards and suggested that in fact it might be some sort of strange viral infection that he had, and lo and behold, he was checked out by the doctor, and yes, he did have a viral infection of the vestibular nerve, which is the one accountable for transmitting spatial, reflex and balance information from the inner ear to the brain. So how's that for a really strange reason? Okay, number 5 was on the 19th of September. This was the guy in the Strand where he had his ski broken by a rogue wave on the back line. So that wasn't a downwinder. He actually wrote about that. There's an NSRI write-up on that. Then we had one on the 6th and the 7th happening in mid-October. This was a visiting European skier. I haven't spoken to him. I'm not a member of the club, so it's a presumption on my part that the primary cause of that incident was instability. And in that incident, there was also a PLB activation. So we have those 2 PLB activations that led to Pete Linley's research. Then we had instance number 7, which took place on the 20th of October. That was the first Cape Point challenge race qualifier. And again, I tried to speak to this paddler. He's not a member of our club. So again, it's a presumption on my part that the primary cause was instability. And then we have this final instance, which was a couple of days ago, which I'll tell you about at the end of this video. So section 3 is a update on personal locator beacons. This is the research that was conducted by Pete Linley in conjunction with the NSRI. So this exact device was activated in rescue number 3, referred to above, as well as in rescue number 6. And whilst it does work in the sense that it sends out a satellite signal that is picked up by the Intergovernmental Satellite Network, picked up by a search and rescue center in Europe, then relayed here to South Africa to the Marine Control Center in Cape Town, and then sent finally to the NSRI. You can tell it's a very circuitous route with long time delays. This device does not have a homing signal that can be picked up by the NSRI rescue craft. I previously reported that it did. I was wrong. You know you can't trust YouTubers half the time. So I've copy-pasted Pete's great PDF document below, but please read it for yourself. It's highly worthwhile. A copy of it can be downloaded from Rob Mouseley's SURFSKI info site. Just as a matter of interest, my group of paddlers, there are 3 or 4 of us who've decided to opt for radios. We've done the radio course. You can see the size of this thing. This is small enough to fit into I'm going to put it in the rear of my life jacket, and I'll just pull it out with a lanyard. And it doesn't have any of the issues that one has with a phone in terms of needing this is waterproof. It doesn't need a waterproof cover, and it's very easy, even with my short-sightedness, to use the few buttons that have. And you'll see from the final story that I'm going to tell you at the end of this video, the harrowing instance, that there was another instance where a paddler was unable to properly use his phone in a rescue. Thanks to Pete, thanks also to Holger Hayes, who has made these radios available to us surf skiers at a discounted rate, and was also involved in putting together the research document that Pete has compiled. Thanks, guys. I was chatting to one of the younger elite paddlers in our club earlier today. He happens to be a SURFSKI coach as well, and he reflected to me that the sport of surf skiing is growing principally because middle-aged men seem to be flocking to the sport, so kind of 45 plus. And of course, it's much more difficult for people at that age to develop stability skills. If you look at the age profile of the 7 paddlers who were rescued in these recent downwinds, in 4 instances, the paddlers were 60 plus, and in 3 instances between 45 and 55. So if you take a lazy, non-interrogating approach to that data, you could easily conclude that age is in fact the problem. However, in at least 2 of those instances, it was due to, where the paddler was 60 years old or more, it was due to equipment failure. And in one of those instances, the broken paddle, the person in question is in fact a remount master, left side, right side, in his sleep, no problem, every time. However, I do acknowledge that it's a simple physiological, biological fact that the older you are when you start paddling, the more of a disadvantage you're at in terms of developing stability. But that really shouldn't be an issue, because the trick is to ensure that you're in a ski in which you're sufficiently stable, and key issue that you can, of course, do a remount, do consecutive remounts. So what is acceptable risk? How much risk is too much risk? My response to that situation is that, provided I take all the appropriate safety precautions from a communication point of view, provided I can remount my ski in tough conditions, then I know that the NSRI is happy to come and rescue me in the event that something does go wrong. In my particular instance, I'm relatively comfortable doing a big downwind in my swordfish, but I know I'm not stable, and I know that a remount in a swordfish is a challenge. So I've recently, when I said a couple of months ago, I changed to a boost, and I am so much more at ease now when I'm paddling out to the rock and whilst I'm doing a downwind. I do not think about instability and being rescued, because I know if I fall out, even in very big conditions, 35 to 40 knots, with a big running swell, I know that I can remount till the cows come home. And best of all, I know that the NSRI is there to watch my back. So please, if you are not already a donor to the NSRI, there is a link below. Please follow that link and do the right thing. Now for that harrowing, for me, horrifying rescue tale from the last couple of days. So conditions were big, 25 to 30 knots, big ground swell. The paddler was on a ground swell just past the lighthouse when he got taken out by an easterly swell, falls in, grabs for his ski, just kind of gets the smooth top upper deck, and it's gone. And the last thing he recalls seeing was the ski actually spinning in the air above the water. These new Epics are less than 10 kilograms. Gone in a fraction of a second. So clearly his leg leash, which was one of those ones fastened around the top of his calf with a double closure mechanism, either he hadn't closed it properly, or it failed because of the Velcro being old when it doesn't fasten properly, or there was some sort of dirt trapped in it. But it can happen to the best of us. So now he's in the water. Completely different case of trying to operate your phone in the water versus lying on your ski, because now you've got water lashing over the top of your head. He was unable to put his code into his phone for a full 30 minutes. In fact, he didn't get a call in to his buddy with whom he had shared his safe tracks until 30 minutes after falling in. Between the delay in alerting the NSRI and the huge challenge of finding a tiny bobbing head without the benefit of an attached ski with stickers on it in huge seas like this, it took nearly 2.5 hours to find the paddler. Fortunately, he was wearing a wetsuit top, but was nevertheless extremely cold. we really do need a backup for our phones, either in the form of a personal locator beacon or in the form of a radio. At one stage, he was surrounded by a large shoulder fish. The birds were feeding off the fish, and of course, every paddler's worst nightmare. The dorsal fin arrives, and a large bronze whaler that he could see in the water, within meters of him, was busy feeding on that shoulder fish. And as far as I'm concerned, there's only one type of shark, and that's the type that wants to take a munch out of you. I'm going to sign off with an NSRI fundraising update. You'll see from the attached that the channel has now raised just over $162, which is just shy of 3,000 South African Rand, of which Station 10 here in Simonstown has received 2 checks of approximately 1,200 Rand each. Google pays me, the channel owner, only once the kitty has accumulated past $1,000. So this channel receives a check of approximately 1,200 Rand every 2 months, which is then handed over to Simonstown and checked out, thank you, by the channel auditor, by Russell Seymour. You'll see the other landmark is that we recently passed 300,000 views, which is tiny in overall YouTube kind of Mr. Beast terms, but at least the channel is heading north. And finally, there's a subscriber competition that I need to report back on. It was held about 6 months ago. It closed once we got to 1,200 subscribers, and the winner is Chris Barnes, who's from the west coast, the Sunshine Coast of Australia. He has family here in Somerset West, has visited South Africa before. Chris, just a reminder that you still need to tell me what you want to do about collecting your prize. Thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing you again, either on the channel or hopefully out on the water. Cheers.